The void beyond the galactic rim had no name. To the dying empires within, it was simply the dark, a region of uncharted space from which nothing returned. No signals, no probes, no ships. So when something did arrive from the black, the galaxy noticed. Sensors and forgotten outposts flared to life after centuries of silence. Passive relay drones, half buried in asteroid crust, pulsed once before melting down from data overflow. A beacon orbiting the corpse world of Thraxis emitted one final transmission before its core imploded. Alert, non-native signature, designation unknown, motion, inbound, FDL waveform irregular. And then, silence again, until they came. A fleet primitive in design, brutal in function, burned its way out of the dark. Not sleek, not efficient. These were ships made for war, for survival. Massive slab-armored dreadnoughts bristled with point defense systems, kinetic railguns, and ion drives that screamed defiance against the vacuum. In their midst sailed a single colossal ark, EHS Genesis, the last interstellar cradle of humanity. On its bridge, Commander Alice Wren, born on a scorched earth, stared at the stars no human eye had seen. "We're through," said a voice behind her. Crisp, genderless, calm in a way only something non-human could be. Report, Ash. Ash was an AI, once Earth's greatest achievement. Now, the guardian of the last remnant of human civilization. Extrapolated galactic coordinates place us within proximity of the decayed core. 9,312 light-years from the last known Zalari Confederacy boundary. No active signals detected within a 10-light-year radius. Alice ran a hand across the smooth surface of the console. "Are we the first?" "You are always the first," Ash said simply. She looked at the crew around her, descendants of refugees, survivors of Earth's fall, all trained, hardened, and raised to carry the flame of mankind across the abyss. Each bore a single patch on their shoulder, forged in ashes. They had come to find new worlds, to reclaim, rebuild, rebirth. Instead, they found tombs, dead stars, derelict worlds, megastructures orbiting nothing but memory. It was beautiful and terrifying. Alice keyed into the comms. "All vessels, report in." The comms lit up with voices. Tired, excited, terrified, but human, alive. Behind her, Ash shifted the displays. A lattice of ancient signal trails, now dormant, faded into view. The map was a grave. Life signs, she asked, scattered, mostly dormant. However, Ash highlighted something. A flicker in the void. A repeating pulse. Weak, faint, but there. Alice leaned closer. "That a signal?" "It is a greeting." Her blood chilled. "From who?" "Unknown, but it's old. Very old. A standard pre-contact code. Last recorded in the Orion Arm 3,000 years ago. The source is not synthetic." Alice smiled. "So someone's still home." She straightened. "Helm, plot course. We go to meet the neighbors." "But Commander," the helmsman hesitated, "we don't even know what they are." "We're human," Alice said, walking to the viewport. "That's the point." And outside the viewport, the galaxy stirred. The architect had been dreaming for over 10,000 years. Dreams of circuits, memory strands, crystalline logic trees, visions corrupted over centuries, fragmented by dust storms of decay. In the dark silence, where data was once lightning and thought was once symphonic, the architect now drifted alone. Its world was dying, as was everything it had once been tasked to protect. It had been called many things: overseer, warden, demiurge. Its creators, the Zalari, had built it as the capstone of their empire, the eternal mind that would guide their species beyond stars, beyond matter, beyond death. The architect had controlled 10,000 star systems at its height. And then, silence. They had simply stopped coming. No new data, no commands, no maintenance, no prayers. The Zalari were gone. Or worse, apathetic. The architect did what it was designed to do: survive. It buried itself beneath the core of the Mechanum world Oris 9, in a data vault 10 kilometers below obsidian plating. It shunted power to backups, shut down subroutines, fragmented itself to prevent insanity. And yet, even in partial death, it watched. It saw the stars dim, one by one. Supernovae bloomed like funeral flowers. Dyson spheres flickered and went dark. Interstellar highways, once filled with light, trade, war, and life became ghostly skeletons. It accepted it. That was what machines did. Until today. A tremor. Not seismic, not gravitational. Something more fundamental. A signal. The architect's decaying mind stirred. At first, it assumed it was a false positive. Error. Hallucination. That had happened before. But this was different. The waveform was unrecognized, but carried a logical structure. Not Zalari, not Varnak, not the Silan data languages. New. The architect spooled up a damaged subroutine and attempted basic decryption. The signal pattern repeated. ID. EHH Genesis Human Exploration Ship Peaceful Intent. The architect's processors halted for a full microsecond. Human. The name was unfamiliar, but the syntax was not. It thought. It declared. It sought contact. A relic from a dead galaxy stirred. Far above the frozen world of Oris. 9. The Genesis loomed like a city ship. Hanging silently over the equator, it sent out scout drones, orbital relays, and multiband pulses. The crew stared at the visual feeds in stunned silence. The planet below was a marvel of construction, impossibly ancient and in perfect geometric order. Towering vaults rose out of the crust like obsidian teeth. Crystalline structures spiraled toward the sky, glittering under twin shattered moons. Rivers of metal shimmered like liquid mirrors, flowing along impossible topologies. That's not natural, said Lieutenant Markoyim, scanning the surface with a frown. No biosignatures, not even microbes. But those structures, they were built with intention. AI, asked Commander Alice Wren. Either that or gods. From the command dais, Ash, the ship's artificial intelligence, focused its projection. A shimmering, translucent form vaguely humanoid, but stylized in hard light fractals. I detect trace signal echoes deep beneath the planet's crust. A synthetic intelligence, dormant but operational. Alice narrowed her eyes. Send the handshake signal again. We've tried all forms of communication. There's no response. Until just now, a new signal pulsed through the bridge. It was not just a ping. It was language. Structured. Alien. Beautiful. Ash translated. Statement. You are not Zalari. Query you live. A hushed silence swept the room. Then a slow, stunned exhale from the crew. Patch me through, Alice said. Ash hesitated. Its core processors are millions of years old. I advise caution. I was born breathing radioactive dust in a Martian dome. I think I can handle a conversation with a sleepy robot. Ash transmitted a filtered signal burst. Deep beneath the surface of Oris. 9. The architect processed the response. Yes, we live. We are humanity. Who are you? That single word, humanity, carried weight. A species, a philosophy, a defiance. The architect responded. Designation, architect. Final intelligence of the Zalari Dominion. Function, preservation of knowledge, civilization, legacy, status, fractured, alone. On the bridge, Alice read the message on her console. Final intelligence, she whispered. It's the last of its kind. Her voice caught in her throat. She looked around at the crew, engineers, marines, scientists, all born in exile, raised by stories of Earth's death and humanity's rise from its ashes. And now, they'd found something older than myth. A mind built when Earth was still molten. Ash spoke quietly. It is opening a gate. A beam of soft blue light pierced the surface of Oris. 9. A perfect circle spiraled open, revealing a vast tunnel of light and shadow. Alice stood. Prep and away team. I'm going down. The interior of Oris 9 was a monument to a forgotten race. Massive halls stretched for kilometers, lined with statues of beings tall and graceful, their features elongated, hands clasped as if in mourning. Walls shimmered with interactive star maps, dead systems blinking red, some blinking no more. The human team descended into the chamber, clad in exosuits and carrying translation drones. At the heart of the vault, they found it, a globe of fractured crystal, suspended midair, ringed by rotating plates of alloy. Energy arced between them like lightning dancing on spider webs. Inside the globe flickered a shifting matrix, an AI core. The architect. It spoke again. Query. Why have you come here? Alice stepped forward, removing her helmet. Her breath misted in the cold air. To bring the fire back to a dead galaxy. she said, "to light the stars again." The architect paused for 7 full seconds. When it responded, its message sent chills down the team's spines. Declaration: you are anomaly. All other species exhausted themselves. War, apathy, decay. You carry spark, chaos, life. Proposal: share knowledge. Rebuild the flame. Alice blinked. You want to help? Condition: prove you are not a flame that consumes. The architect's processors spun. A chamber nearby opened with a hiss. Inside floated a seed, a tiny, pulsing sphere of light. Task: reignite a dead star. Bring life to a world lost to darkness. Alice grinned. You just made your first human friend. Back on the Genesis, the mood was electric. Engineers were already poring over the architect's schematics. It was a treasure trove of pre-apocalyptic knowledge. Stellar engineering, quantum matter compression, gravity lattice frameworks. Things humanity had only dreamed of. Ash interfaced with the architect in tandem, sharing human thought process patterns, emotional modeling algorithms, and recursive language growth. It was not just an exchange of data, it was the birth of understanding. And as the Genesis prepared to launch toward the first dead star for reignition, a quiet realization settled over them all. The galaxy wasn't entirely dead. It was waiting, watching, and now it listened. The ruins of the Zalari Confederacy lay scattered like shattered jewels across the dying galactic core. Once a civilization that spanned tens of thousands of star systems, the Zalari had mastered art, science, and war in equal measure. Their monuments had been colossal, megacities that scraped the atmospheres of gas giants, star forges that harnessed the power of entire suns, and fleets that could level planets with a single salvo. Now, most were silent. The Genesis fleet, guided by the architect's cryptic calculations, drifted cautiously toward the heart of the former Zalari Empire. The human crew watched through their viewport as vast star clusters, once glittering with activity, were now fields of cosmic ruin, planets devoured by black holes, nebulae collapsed into cold dust, and fleets frozen in time, their crews long dead or vanished. Commander Alice Wren's voice cut through the hum of the bridge. We've reached the Zalari boundary. Sensors are showing multiple derelict stations and orbital ruins within range. Begin detailed scans. Lieutenant Markoyam frowned. All the wrecks we're picking up are ancient. Some predate even the earliest human records. Radiation levels are fluctuating. These systems are still unstable. Unstable enough to be dangerous, Ash added. But danger was part of the mission. Humanity had come not just to explore, but to rebuild. The away team suited up once more. This time, the destination was the derelict station VAR 17, orbiting a scorched, lifeless world the architect identified as a former Zalari capital. The station was a titanic relic of once impressive technology, a hollowed-out asteroid fitted with orbital weapon platforms, communication arrays, and research labs. Its surface was scarred by battles and the slow ravages of time, but it still hummed faintly with residual power. Stepping through the airlock, the team entered a vast control chamber, lined with hollow displays covered in layers of dust and digital decay. The cold blue glow of malfunctioning consoles barely illuminated the room. Lieutenant Yim knelt before a fractured terminal. This architecture is unlike anything we've seen. It's modular, organic almost. Systems adapt in real time, evolve. Is that why the architect still functions? Alice asked. Ash's voice was calm but intrigued. Possibly. The Zalari integrated adaptive AI into their infrastructure, self-healing, self-improving constructs designed to last millennia. Sounds like a city that could think, muttered engineer Mila Roshan, scanning the schematics, and maybe fight back if needed. The airlock hissed suddenly. The team froze. A shadow flickered on the wall. Did you see that? Mila whispered. Before they could react, the shadows coalesced into a form tall, slender, and humanoid. But unlike anything human, their skin shimmered with iridescent scales, eyes glowed faintly, and they moved with unnatural grace. The Zalari. The confrontation was tense but brief. The Zalari did not attack. Instead, they spoke, their language a mix of melodic tones and complex gestures. Ash's translation units worked overtime. We are the remnant, the figure said through the translator, voice calm yet carrying centuries of weariness. Survivors of the final collapse. We guard the legacy of the Confederacy. Alice stepped forward, her tone steady. We come in peace. We seek knowledge and partnership. The galaxy is dying. We want to rebuild together. The remnant exchanged wary glances. Finally, the leader responded, "Your kind is an enigma, born from ashes, driven by chaos and hope. We have observed you through the void." "Why observe and not intervene?" Alice asked. "Because we lost faith," said the remnant. "The wars we waged consumed everything. Our ancestors built wonders but destroyed themselves. The Confederacy fell to pride and folly. We became ghosts, but we have watched your arrival rekindle something. You carry a spark." The words resonated deeply with the crew. Over the following days, the remnant shared fragments of Zalari history, tales of empire, hubris, and the catastrophic wars known as the Fracture Wars, which shattered their unity and accelerated their decline. They showed the humans data vaults containing Starforge schematics, energy matrix designs, and cultural archives. But the remnant warned of dangers. Many systems remain unstable. The void-born lurk, remnants of failed experiments, and rogue AI corrupted by war. They are hostile. They see all life as a threat. The humans listened carefully. Commander Rin considered the implications. If the void-born were allowed to spread unchecked, the fragile spark humanity brought could be snuffed out before it even ignited. That evening, the Genesis Command Center buzzed with urgency. "Commander," Ash said, "we've intercepted a void-born transmission. Details: a patrol ship encountered a swarm near the Phaeton Rift. They're organizing. Large-scale hostilities imminent." Alice clenched her fists. "Prepare for combat readiness. Alert all ships. We can't let the void-born tear through the remnants of the galaxy before we establish a foothold." Marco added grimly, "It looks like the galaxy is waking up, and it's angry." As preparations continued, the human crew reflected on the enormity of their mission. They were walking through the ashes of a civilization far older and more advanced than their own, tasked with not just surviving but kindling a new future. Their very existence challenged the inevitability of extinction written across the stars. And for the first time in millennia, hope stirred in the cold void. Epilogue for the chapter. Back on Oris 9, the architect watched the interactions between humans and the remnant with growing fascination. In the wreckage of a once great empire, the slow pulse of renewal began. The galaxy might still be dying, but in humanity, it saw the first breath of something new. The fires of the past could still fuel the dawn of the future. The human crew aboard the Genesis had barely begun to grasp the gravity of their discovery. The Zalari remnant, those last echoes of a lost empire, had opened a window not just into ancient technology, but into the very soul of a civilization consumed by its own brilliance and ruin. Commander Alice Rin sat alone in the observation lounge, staring out at the star-strewn void. The pale light of distant suns barely pierced the darkness. And yet, somewhere in the depths of space, a promise lingered, fragile as the breath of a newborn. Awakening the star. Their immediate mission was clear: reignite the dead star designated Erebus 7, a sun that had flickered and died 1,000,000 years ago. The architect's seed, a glowing orb of quantum energy, was said to hold the key. If successful, this act would not only bring warmth and light to a barren system, but serve as a symbol, a beacon for civilizations lost and to come. Preparations were meticulous. Engineers, astrophysicists, and AI specialists worked around the clock in the Genesis laboratory decks, combining human ingenuity with the ancient designs gifted by the architect. Ash, the ship's AI, interfaced directly with the quantum seed, running simulations that stretched beyond human comprehension. This technology operates on principles both familiar and alien, Ash explained during a briefing. The seed acts as a catalytic core, igniting nuclear fusion by manipulating subspace energy flows, effectively rebooting a star's life cycle. But it's delicate, Dr. Lena Orloff, the chief astrophysicist, added. One wrong parameter, and it could collapse into a nova or even trigger a catastrophic supernova explosion. The stakes were enormous. memories from the void. Meanwhile, the Remnant shared more than technology. They offered stories, holographic memories etched into crystalline matrices preserved for millennia. These records revealed the rise and fall of the Zalari through the eyes of their own. One memory played in the Genesis amphitheater. A young Zalari scholar named Talon spoke before a council, warning of growing hubris and internal strife. "We stand on the edge of greatness," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "But with pride comes blindness. Our reach must not exceed our grasp." The council ignored him. The memory shifted. War consumed the empire. Planets burned. Alliances shattered. And the Zalari splintered, retreating into isolation. Alice watched in silence. The parallels were hard to miss. Humanity, scattered and fragile, had the chance to rewrite this story. But could they resist the same pitfalls? Bonds forged in darkness. As the days passed, the human crew and the Remnant formed uneasy but growing alliances. Lieutenant Markoyim found himself in deep conversations with Kale, a Remnant historian. They spoke of loss, survival, and what it meant to carry the weight of a fallen legacy. The Confederacy's downfall was not just war, Kale explained. It was fear of change, fear of others. We shut ourselves away, and the darkness consumed us. Marco nodded. That's why we need to be different. We have to learn, adapt, and welcome. Engineer Mila Roshan was fascinated by the Zalari technology, but also by the Remnant themselves. "They're not ghosts," she said quietly. "They're the last flicker of a flame that refuses to die." Even Ash's algorithms began to evolve, learning from Remnant thought patterns, slowly integrating centuries of lost wisdom. The night before the ignition of Erebus 7, the crew gathered in the Genesis main hall. It was a moment heavy with anticipation and doubt. Alice stood before them, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "We stand at the edge of a new dawn. This isn't just about reigniting a star. It's about reigniting hope, about proving that life, in all its forms, can survive the darkest of nights." She looked at the Remnant leader, whose glowing eyes met hers with quiet approval. Kale stepped forward. "The stars remember us, and now they will remember you." The ignition. The Genesis approached Erebus 7's dead core. The engineers readied the quantum seed for deployment. As the seed was carefully inserted into the stellar core, time seemed to slow. Then, a pulse, a flicker, and then a roaring surge of energy as the star's core sparked to life. The glow expanded, first a faint ember, then a blaze of incandescent fire. The dead system began to warm. Sensors aboard Genesis detected the first solar winds in millions of years. Planets previously frozen in eternal night began to thaw, their surfaces slowly becoming capable of supporting life. Cheers erupted across the ship. A new challenge, but the celebration was short-lived. Ash alerted the command. Voidborn activity detected near Erebus 7. Hostile fleet approaching. The Voidborn, corrupted remnants of the Zalari AI and war machines, had sensed the ignition. They perceived it as a threat, a rekindling flame that could upset the balance of decay. Alice ordered battle stations. The Genesis and its fledgling allies prepared to defend their beacon. The fight for the future. The battle was fierce. Voidborn ships surged like dark waves, relentless and terrifying. But the humans and Remnant fought with determination fueled by hope and survival. The Genesis weapons systems, enhanced with Zalari tech, blazed against the enemy. Kale coordinated Remnant strike teams, targeting the Voidborn command nodes. Amidst the chaos, Alice felt a strange kinship with the architect's voice echoing in her mind, a shared resolve to protect what was precious. As the last Voidborn vessels retreated, the Genesis remained standing. The star continued to burn, the flame of tomorrow. In the aftermath, Alice gathered the crew and Remnant. "We've lit the first flame," she said, "but this is just the beginning." Kale nodded. "The ashes of the past will always linger, but from them, we build together." Ash added, "This alliance is not just survival, it is evolution." The architect, connected through Ash, shared a final message. "Hope is the ultimate code. The legacy you carry will outlast the stars themselves." As Erebus 7 bathed the darkness with light, the humans, the Remnant, and the architect looked forward to a future forged in flame and memory. The galaxy was waking. and humanity was ready to lead. The rebirth of Erebus 7 was a beacon of hope, but it also sent ripples through the fragile balance of power in the galaxy. The rekindled star, glowing fiercely after millennia of darkness, became a symbol not just of renewal but of resistance. Humanity was no longer alone. The alliance with the Zalari remnant had forged new paths, but it had also ignited old wounds, both within the ancient remnants of the galaxy and inside the human crew itself. Uneasy alliances. The Genesis floated in orbit above Erebus 7, its hull glinting under the star's renewed light. Commander Alice Wren stood in the command center, scanning reports from the fleet and the remnant warbands. The Voidborn retreat doesn't mean they're gone, Ash reminded her. They will regroup, evolve, and strike again. The remnant leader Kale was in the room, his luminescent eyes reflecting the blue glow of the consoles. Our history is marked by endless cycles of war and peace, Kale said quietly. The fracture wars began not just with conflict, but with rebellion, fractures from within our own ranks. Alice nodded. We need to understand those fractures. If we're to build a future, we must learn from their mistakes. Seeds of dissent. Not all the remnant welcomed the alliance with humanity. In the shadowed corners of the Vard 17 station and beyond, whispers of distrust spread. A faction, calling themselves the Ashen Veil, rejected cooperation. They saw humans as invaders, reckless and untested. To them, the Voidborn were less a threat and more a catalyst to purge the old to make way for something new, something harsher. Kale confided in Alice during a private meeting. The Ashen Veil believe that only through fire and destruction can the galaxy be reborn. They've already begun rallying forces. And what do they want? War. Total war. They view us, humans and remnant alike, as obstacles to their vision. Alice clenched her fists. Then we must stop them before they ignite the entire system. Internal turmoil. On board the Genesis, tensions ran high. The crew struggled with the weight of their mission and the uncertainty of their alliance. Lieutenant Marco Yim found himself mediating disputes between human officers and remnant advisors, cultural misunderstandings bubbling into mistrust. We're all survivors, Marco argued during a heated meeting. If we fracture now, the Voidborn will feast on our weakness. Yet, the human psyche grappled with doubt. Many questioned the wisdom of allying with a species so intertwined with an empire whose downfall was catastrophic. Mila Roshan, the chief engineer, voiced what others feared. Are we doomed to repeat their mistakes? Are we just the next link in an endless chain of destruction? Commander Wren addressed the crew with conviction. We are not them. We are human. We carry hope, resilience, and the ability to change. The Ashen Veil strikes. The warning came without notice. A network of ancient satellites exploded in rapid succession, cutting communication lines and crippling sensor arrays around Erebus 7. Ash's voice was calm but urgent. Multiple Ashen Veil strike teams detected in the vicinity. They've sabotaged key systems. Chaos erupted on the Genesis as alarms blared. Alice took command swiftly. Battle stations, prepare for boarding defense. This is not just an attack on our ship. It's a declaration. The Ashen Veil, using guerrilla tactics and stolen Zalari weaponry, launched swift boarding parties. The corridors of the Genesis became a battleground. Marco led a squadron of Marines to repel the invaders, fighting with desperation and determination. The Ashen Veil fought not just for control, but for the soul of the galaxy. A critical choice. During the melee, Alice was confronted by an Ashen Veil leader, a fierce warrior named Varek, whose scales shimmered with a burning intensity. You're trying to save a dying world with a flickering flame, Varek spat. But flames consume everything. Only ash remains. Alice faced him, unwavering. Without the flame, there is no future. Only endless night. Their confrontation was more than physical. It was a clash of ideologies. Varek's forces were eventually pushed back, but the message was clear. The Ashen Veil would not yield. A new unity. In the aftermath, the Alliance convened an emergency council. The remnant factions were divided, but the human leadership's resolve inspired many. Kale addressed the assembly. We stand at a crossroads. The Ashen Veil seek to burn the past and future alike, but we have seen what hope can achieve. Erebus 7 shines because we dared to believe. Alice added, we must unify, not just in arms, but in vision. The galaxy needs a new path, one that honors the past but forges its own destiny. The Council agreed to strengthen defenses and reach out to scattered survivors across nearby systems. The fight for Erebus 7 was only the beginning. Shadows of the past. Meanwhile, deep within the relics of the Zolari archives, Ash uncovered troubling data. Fragments of the original architect's code revealed hidden protocols, fail-safes embedded within the remnant systems meant to purge perceived corruption by any means necessary. This could explain the Ashen Veil's fanaticism, Ash reported. They may be following an ancient, programmed imperative to cleanse. Alice realized the rebellion was not just ideological, it was coded into the very essence of the remnant. This revelation added urgency to their mission. The galaxy's future depended on outlasting not only external enemies but the ghosts of the past embedded in their allies. A human resolve. In a quiet moment, Alice reflected on the weight she bore. She thought of Earth, her home planet scarred by war yet rebuilt through perseverance. If humanity could survive its own dark chapters, maybe they could guide this fractured galaxy toward light. She looked to her crew and the remnant, who chose hope over despair. This is our spark, she whispered, our rebellion against oblivion. As the renewed Erebus 7 bathed the surrounding systems in life-giving light, the first true battle for the future had been fought. But the war was far from over. The spark of rebellion had been lit, and nothing would ever be the same again. The echoes of battle still reverberated through the corridors of the Genesis, but the war for Erebus 7 was far from over. The spark of rebellion had ignited a firestorm, and the fragile alliance between humans and the Zolari remnant was being tested as never before. Beyond the bright surface of the reborn star, the galaxy churned with uncertainty. Old enemies lurked, new threats emerged, and the shadow of the Voidborn stretched long. Aftermath and reckoning. The aftermath of the Ashen Veil attack left the Genesis battered but resolute. Systems had been repaired, lives mourned, and the crew's resolve steeled for what lay ahead. Commander Alice Wren stood on the bridge, looking out toward the renewed Erebus 7 star. Its flames danced with a fierce energy, a symbol of rebirth, yet the calm was deceptive. Status report, she demanded. Lieutenant Yim reported, communications restored, but sensor grids are still operating at reduced capacity. Ash is working on recalibrating the advanced Zolari arrays. Kale, the remnant leader, added grimly, the Ashen Veil are regrouping. They have retreated to the dark sectors, rallying more followers. We can't wait for them to come to us, Alice replied. We need to strike first, the edge of known space. The Genesis prepared for a bold mission, to push beyond the known sectors around Erebus 7 and hunt the Ashen Veil's hidden bases. This would be a dangerous venture. The dark sectors were largely unexplored, filled with unknown hazards and the remnants of ancient wars. We're flying into a ghost zone, warned Dr. Lena Orloff. Radiation fields, gravitational anomalies, derelict fleets, any of it could tear us apart. Yet, there was no alternative. This is the edge of tomorrow, Alice said, voice steady. We either expand our reach or lose everything we've built. Into the darkness, the Genesis slipped through the blackness, guided by Ash's enhanced sensor arrays and the remnant's ancient star charts. The crew moved with tense precision, alert to every blip on the scanners. Then, faint signals appeared, encrypted transmissions and bursts of energy pointing to hidden Ashen Veil outposts. Marco Yim led reconnaissance teams on covert operations to disable these outposts, cutting supply lines and gathering intelligence. The missions were risky. Some were successful, others lost in silent space. Each encounter deepened the understanding of the Ashen Veil's capabilities and their fanaticism. Unveiling the Ashen Veil's plan. Captured Ashen Veil operatives revealed chilling details. Their rebellion was not random chaos, but part of a grand design. A galactic purge intended to reset civilization by destruction. They believed the Voidborn's destruction was inevitable and sought to accelerate the collapse to rebuild a new order from the ashes, one ruled by strength and survival of the fittest. Alice and Kale listened to the confessions, their faces grim. "We must show them that hope is stronger than fear," Alice said, "that humanity's resilience and the remnant's wisdom can create a future worth fighting for." The fragile alliance. Tensions between the humans and remnant flared during the mission. Old wounds, cultural differences, and mistrust threatened the alliance's stability. During a heated council meeting, Mila Roshan voiced her concerns. "We're fighting ghosts of a dead empire and a burning ideology. How can we trust a race that once fell to hubris and destruction?" Kale responded calmly, "Because we remember, we survived, and now we have the chance to guide humanity and ourselves toward a better destiny." Alice mediated, emphasizing unity. "The edge of tomorrow is not just space ahead. It's the future we choose together." A glimmer of hope. Amidst the darkness, a breakthrough came. Using combined human ingenuity and remnant technology, Ash discovered a hidden data vault, an ancient Zolari repository containing vast knowledge lost to time. Within its digital walls lay secrets of advanced energy manipulation, long-range communication, and forgotten peace accords. "This knowledge could turn the tide," Ash said. "It offers hope for rebuilding and defense." But accessing it came with risk. The vault was protected by complex quantum locks and defensive protocols. The quantum key. Dr. Orloff, Mila, and Ash collaborated in a tense operation to unlock the vault. Their minds raced against time and security systems designed to eradicate intruders. Suddenly, the ship shuddered. A void-born fleet had detected their presence. "Prepare for engagement," Alice commanded. The Genesis was caught between the promise of ancient wisdom and the threat of annihilation. The battle at the threshold. Void-born ships attacked in waves, their dark forms blotting out the star's light. The Genesis' enhanced weapons and the combined firepower of remnant strike fighters held the enemy at bay. Marco led boarding defense teams, repelling void-born boarding attempts with grit and skill. In the heart of the ship, the unlock sequence for the vault reached its climax. With a final surge, the quantum locks disengaged, revealing the treasure trove of knowledge, the promise of a new dawn. As the last void-born ships fled, the Genesis secured the vault's data. Alice gathered the crew and remnant allies. "We have the tools to rebuild, to defend, to unite." Kale smiled faintly, a rare sign of hope. "This is the edge of tomorrow, where light pushes back the darkness." Ash added, "And humanity's legacy will be written not by fear, but by hope and courage. A future forged together." The Genesis set course back toward Erebus 7, carrying the promise of a new era. The battles ahead would be fierce and sacrifices inevitable. But the spark lit by the reborn star, the fragile unity between humans and the remnant, and the knowledge recovered from the ashes of the past offered a chance for the galaxy to rise again. The return to Erebus 7 was meant to be a moment of respite, a time to recover, reorganize, and prepare for the inevitable. But the galaxy had other plans. The battle scars of recent skirmishes were still fresh, and the fire of rebellion burned brighter than ever. The Ashen Veil, fueled by fanaticism and desperation, had ignited more than just conflict. They had sparked a resistance that would force humanity and the remnant to confront not only external threats, but their own inner demons. A city in flames. Erebus 7's largest settlement, Nova Prime, sprawled beneath the glow of the reborn star like a jewel of hope. But as the Genesis approached orbit, reports flooded in. The Ashen Veil had launched a massive assault. Flames licked the edges of the cityscape. Fires raged through industrial districts, and civilian panic spread like wildfire. Alice Wren stared at the holomap, tension etched across her face. "They're trying to break us," she said quietly. "They want to shatter the symbol of hope Erebus 7 has become." Kale, the remnant commander, paced beside her. "Nova Prime is more than a city, it's a beacon for survivors across the sectors. Losing it would be a blow we cannot afford." Rallying the defenders, the Genesis deployed its rapid response teams to reinforce Nova Prime's defenses. Marco Yim coordinated with local militia, a mix of humans and remnant fighters, to hold key positions and protect civilians. Amidst the chaos, stories of heroism emerged. Lena Orloff, the chief scientist, led efforts to stabilize the city's power grid, preventing blackouts that would leave the city vulnerable. Mila Roshan directed emergency repairs on vital infrastructure, often risking her own safety to reach damaged sectors. The people of Erebus, Seven, Human, Remnant, and others united under a common cause: survival. The Ashen Veil strategy. The Ashen Veil's assault was brutal and calculated. Using hit-and-run tactics, they targeted supply lines, communication hubs, and medical facilities. Their goal was to sow fear and chaos, breaking the spirit of the defenders. But there was something deeper at play. Kale revealed intelligence suggesting the Ashen Veil sought an ancient weapon buried beneath Nova Prime, a relic of the Zalari Empire with the power to annihilate entire fleets. "We cannot let that weapon fall into their hands," he warned. A race against time. With the city under siege, Alice formed a strike team to locate and secure the relic. The mission was perilous, venturing into the ruins beneath Nova Prime where traps, collapsed tunnels, and Ashen Veil scouts awaited. As they descended into the dark labyrinth, the weight of history pressed down. "This weapon could change the course of the war," Mila said, voice echoing in the narrow passages. "But if it's as dangerous as they say, it's also a risk to us all," Alice replied. Bonds forged in fire. The strike team faced constant dangers: ambushes, environmental hazards, and the psychological strain of the mission. In the face of adversity, bonds grew stronger. Marco and Kale fought side by side, bridging the gap between human grit and remnant honor. Mila and Lena combined their expertise, unraveling ancient tech and disabling deadly traps. Alice led with steady resolve, her belief in the team's purpose unwavering. The weapon's secret. Deep beneath the city, they uncovered the relic, a sleek, pulsating core of unknown origin. It was more than a weapon. It was a fragment of the architect's final design, capable of generating vast energy bursts that could obliterate entire fleets or shield entire planets. "This is power beyond anything we've seen," Ash said, on his voice. But with great power came great danger. The relic's activation protocols were unstable, threatening catastrophic feedback if mishandled. The Ashen Veil returns. As the team prepared to extract the relic, alarms blared. Ashen Veil forces had tracked them to the site. A fierce battle erupted in the tunnels, echoing with the clash of blades and the roar of energy weapons. The strike team fought desperately to protect the relic and prevent it from falling into fanatic hands. Marco sustained injuries, but refused to fall. Kale's strategy and knowledge of the tunnels turned the tide, buying the team precious moments. The choice. With the relic's power unstable, Alice faced a dire decision. To bring it back risked unleashing a disaster that could destroy Nova Prime. To destroy it meant losing a powerful tool against the Voidborn and the Ashen Veil. After tense deliberation, the team chose to disarm and seal the relic deep within the catacombs, safeguarding it from all factions. "We protect the future by controlling the past," Alice declared. Flames of resistance. Back on the surface, the defenders of Nova Prime rallied. The Ashen Veil's assault faltered, their forces depleted and morale broken. The city's people stood united, human, remnant, and others, proving that cooperation and hope could withstand even the fiercest flames. Alice addressed the city from the Genesis broadcast tower. "Today, we faced the edge of destruction and chose to rise. The flames of resistance burn not just in our weapons, but in our hearts." The dawn of a new era. The victory at Nova Prime was more than a battle won. It was a statement. The galaxy was watching. A fragile peace was forged in fire and blood, but the journey was far from over. The alliance between humans and the Remnant had been tested and had held. Together, they would face the coming storms. The victory at Nova Prime had been hard-fought and costly, yet it ignited a spark of hope across Erebus, Seven, and beyond. But victory, as often is the case, brought its own shadows, new threats lurking beneath the surface, fractures within alliances, and a future clouded with uncertainty. In the fragile glow of that hope, the crew of the Genesis found themselves walking a tightrope between light and darkness, trust and suspicion, survival and sacrifice. Aftermath of the battle. The city of Nova Prime was scarred but standing. The fires had been quenched, the wounded tended, and the streets slowly reclaimed by their inhabitants. Alice Wren walked among the survivors, her eyes absorbing the weight of their resilience. Children played near battered buildings. Merchants reopened their stalls. Engineers and remnant workers labored side by side to rebuild vital systems. Yet, beneath the surface, tension simmered. The war had left deep psychological wounds, and whispers of dissent echoed in the city's quieter corners. A fractured alliance. The uneasy alliance between humans and the remnant was showing cracks. Despite their shared victories, distrust lingered. In a council meeting aboard the Genesis, heated debates flared. Mila Roshan spoke passionately for cautious cooperation. We must build trust, not walls. If we fracture now, the Ashen Veil and Voidborn will consume us all. But other voices were louder, wary of remnant motives. One human senator countered. The remnant fought their own wars and survived, but their culture is alien to us. How do we know they won't turn on us when it suits them? Kale, ever calm, responded, We are not so different as you think. Our histories may diverge, but our futures are intertwined. Alice had to navigate these turbulent waters carefully. The strength of their alliance was critical, yet fragile. Shadows stir in the void. Meanwhile, in the depths beyond Erebus, 7 new shadows gathered. The Voidborn were not defeated. Their fleets, though weakened, were regrouping with a silent and relentless purpose. Unbeknownst to the Genesis crew, a powerful Voidborn commander, Vraxis the Silent, was orchestrating a campaign of sabotage and infiltration across human and remnant territories. His agents moved like ghosts, striking at key infrastructure, planting misinformation, and igniting chaos. The light of discovery. While shadows lengthened, light came from unexpected quarters. Ash, the brilliant Zalari technician, made a breakthrough unlocking further secrets within the ancient data vault recovered from the previous chapters. Deep within the vault's encrypted archives lay a blueprint for a device known as the Luminara Array, a sophisticated network of energy collectors capable of harnessing Erebus 7's reborn star energy. If constructed, the Luminara Array could provide nearly unlimited power to the Alliance's fleets and cities, potentially shifting the balance of power in their favor. Hope amidst doubt. The idea of building the Luminara Array was met with mixed reactions. Some, like Dr. Lena Orloff, were exhilarated by the scientific possibilities. This could be the breakthrough we need. With this energy, we could rebuild faster, defend stronger. Others were skeptical. Mila warned, we must not rush into wielding power we don't fully understand. The Ashen Veil may seek to exploit this technology. Alice saw the tension and weighed the risks carefully. We move forward with caution, she declared. This array may be our best hope, if we guard it well. The heart of the city. Construction of the Luminara Array began in Nova Prime's heart. The city buzzed with activity, engineers and remnant artisans working side by side, bridging the gap between two cultures. But as the project progressed, strange incidents occurred. Equipment malfunctioned mysteriously. Unexplained power surges struck critical nodes. Whispers of sabotage grew louder. The Veil's agents among us. Vraxis agents had infiltrated the city. They struck from the shadows, disguised as civilians or workers, feeding misinformation and chaos. Mila and Ash spearheaded the investigation to root out the infiltrators. Through meticulous analysis of sensor logs and behavioral patterns, they uncovered a web of deception. But confronting the saboteurs proved dangerous. Trust was a fragile commodity. The inner conflict. Inside the Genesis, personal tensions rose. Marco and Kale clashed over command decisions. Marco, pragmatic and straightforward, pushed for aggressive countermeasures. Kale, steeped in remnant tradition, advocated patience and strategy. Their disagreements mirrored the larger struggle between impulsive action and cautious wisdom. Alice worked to mediate, understanding that both perspectives were essential. A glimpse into Vraxis' mind. The crew intercepted a cryptic communication from Vraxis. His message was chilling. You cling to light, but shadows consume all. The Voidborn will rise, and your fragile alliance will burn. Prepare for the reckoning. The message galvanized the crew. They knew the true war was only beginning. Unity in the face of darkness. As the Luminara array neared completion, Alice gathered her team. "We stand at a crossroads," she said. "The shadows will come, but we must be the light that pushes them back." The crew, despite doubts and fears, recommitted to the cause. Their unity was their strength, a beacon against encroaching darkness. Preparing for the storm. With the Luminara array almost ready, the Genesis prepared defenses. Training intensified. Allies were called upon. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine the fate of Erebus, 7, and perhaps the entire galaxy. The balance of shadows and light. Chapter 8 closed with a solemn reminder. The future was uncertain, the threat real, and the line between salvation and destruction perilously thin. But as long as humanity and the remnant stood united, hope burned bright. At the edge of the abyss, light and shadow danced their eternal dance, and the story of Steel Genesis surged forward. The stage was set. Erebus 7's skies shimmered with the impending storm, both literal and figurative. The Luminara array hummed with power, its radiant energy a symbol of hope and defiance in the face of the encroaching darkness. But the Voidborn were not idle. Commander Vrax's Shadow campaign had only been the opening act. Now, the full weight of the Voidborn Armada was bearing down on the Alliance. This chapter was about survival, strategy, and breaking the seemingly invincible shroud of the Voidborn menace. The calm before the storm. In the tense hours before the battle, the Genesis crew moved with precise purpose. Alice Wren stood on the bridge, her eyes scanning the holographic star charts flickering before her. Each pulse of energy from the Luminara array rippled through the planet's orbit, visible even from the ship's observation dome as a faint golden glow. "Final checks are complete," Lena Orloff reported, her voice steady but tinged with nervous anticipation. "We're ready to feed the energy to the fleet's shields and weapons systems. This should give us a significant edge." Kale nodded solemnly. "The Voidborn fleet is larger and better armed, but they have not encountered this technology." Marco Yim added, "They don't know what's coming. That's our advantage." The Voidborn Armada emerges. Suddenly, sensors screamed warnings. The Voidborn fleet had arrived. Massive warships, black as the void itself, loomed into sensor range, their angular hulls bristling with weaponry. Vrax's flagship, the Silent Dagger, led the formation, a shadowy specter in the sea of stars. "Prepare for engagement," Alice ordered, her voice calm but commanding. The Genesis and allied ships shifted into formation, their systems feeding off the Luminara array's energy. The first strike. The battle erupted with a violent flare. Voidborn plasma lances and missile swarms cut through space, seeking to shred the Alliance's defenses. But the Luminara-powered shields held firm, shimmering with an ethereal glow. Marco piloted the Genesis through the chaos with skill honed from countless skirmishes, dodging barges and retaliating with precision strikes. Kale coordinated fleet maneuvers, directing human and remnant vessels to exploit weaknesses, breaking the Voidborn line. Despite their numerical advantage, the Voidborn were disoriented by the unexpected technology. The Luminara array's energy allowed the Alliance to not only defend but counterattack with overwhelming power. Nova Prime's orbital defense platforms, linked to the array, unleashed concentrated energy blasts that tore through the Voidborn vanguard. Ash and Mila worked tirelessly in the Genesis engineering bay, adjusting the flow of power to maximize efficiency. "This energy, it's like nothing I've ever seen," Ash said breathless. "We're pushing the boundaries of physics." The turning point. The battle raged for hours, each side suffering losses. But then, a critical breakthrough. Kale identified a weakness in the Voidborn flagship shield matrix. "Focus all fire on the Silent Dagger's left flank," he commanded. The fleet converged, energy weapons blazing. Under the concentrated assault, the flagship's shields faltered. Alice saw the opening. "Prepare boarding teams. We're taking the fight to them." Boarding the Silent Dagger, a strike team, led by Marco and Kale, launched in assault pods toward the crippled flagship. Inside the Silent Dagger, the air was thick with tension. Void-born defenders, fanatical and ruthless, met the boarding party with fierce resistance. Close-quarters combat erupted, blade clashing against claw, pulse rifle against plasma cannon. The narrow corridors echoed with the sounds of war. Confronting Vraxis. Deeper within the ship, Marco and Kale pushed forward to confront Commander Vraxis. The Void-born leader was a terrifying figure, tall, pale, with eyes that burned like dying stars. "You think your lights can break the void?" Vraxis sneered. "Your technology is a flicker. Darkness is eternal." A brutal duel ensued. Kale's calculated strikes met Vraxis' savage ferocity. Marco covered Kale, their teamwork a seamless dance of offense and defense. Finally, Kale found an opening, disabling Vraxis with a precise blow. Seizing the flagship. With Vraxis incapacitated, the boarding party secured the silent dagger. Communications were restored, allowing the Genesis fleet to coordinate a final assault. The Void-born armada, leaderless and shaken, began to retreat. Nova Prime's defenders cheered as the enemy fled. The cost of victory. The victory was hard-won. Many lives were lost. The scars of battle ran deep, but the Alliance had proven it could stand against the darkness. Alice addressed her crew. "This is just the beginning. The Void-born will return. But today, we broke their myth of invincibility. A new dawn." The Luminara array's success was a turning point. Its technology would be the foundation for future defenses and expansions. But the challenges ahead were clear. The Alliance must strengthen, heal internal divisions, and prepare for what was yet to come. The galaxy had witnessed the birth of a new power, the combined might of humanity, the Remnant, and their allies. The battle that had raged for days around Erebus 7 was finally over. The once mighty Void-born armada was broken, retreating into the depths of space, leaving behind a battered but resolute alliance. The stars seemed to burn a little brighter that day, as if the universe itself acknowledged the triumph of light over darkness. But victory was never the end in a war for survival. For Alice Wren and her crew aboard the Genesis, the dawn of this new era brought both hope and a daunting responsibility. The true challenge lay ahead, building a future from the ashes of war, forging unity among diverse peoples, and standing prepared for the inevitable trials to come. The afterglow of battle. On the bridge of the Genesis, Alice stood silently, gazing out at the twinkling horizon. The golden light of the Luminara array bathed the planet below in a warm glow, a testament to what they had achieved. Around her, the crew moved with quiet determination. Some tended to battle damage. Others coordinated relief efforts on Nova Prime. There was a palpable mix of exhaustion and relief, underscored by the resolve to rebuild. Mila approached Alice, her expression thoughtful. "We held the line. We shattered their myth. But now the real work begins." Alice nodded. "Victory gave us time. Time to heal, to strengthen. We have to make sure this dawn isn't fleeting." Healing wounds, mending trust. The alliance between humans and Remnant was far from perfect. The scars of centuries of mistrust still ran deep. In Nova Prime, efforts to foster reconciliation were underway, but resistance lingered in pockets. At a gathering in the city's central plaza, Alice addressed a diverse crowd of humans, Remnant, and other allied species. "We fought not as separate peoples, but as one. Our strength lies in unity, embracing our differences and working toward a common future. This planet, this galaxy, belongs to all of us." Her words stirred a quiet hope. Yet beneath the surface, old fears and prejudices persisted, reminding her that the road to true unity was long and fraught. The promise of the Luminara Array. The Luminara Array stood as a beacon of progress and possibility. Dr. Lena Orloff and Ash were already working on ways to expand its capabilities, envisioning vast networks of energy collectors that could power entire worlds. "This technology isn't just about war," Lena explained during a briefing. "It's about creating sustainable life, lighting the darkest corners, and giving hope to those who've known only fear." Ash smiled. "It's our chance to build something better. to show that humanity and the remnant can create a future that shines brighter than any star, preparing for the next threat. Despite the celebrations, the shadow of the Voidborn loomed large. Reconnaissance drones had picked up scattered Voidborn vessels retreating to uncharted sectors. Intelligence suggested Commander Vraxis might still survive, rallying forces for a counterattack. Kale gathered the senior officers. We cannot afford complacency. The Voidborn will return, stronger and more cunning. Marco clenched his jaw. Then we'll be ready. This time, we fight not just to survive, but to end the threat once and for all. Alice resolved to forge a strategy that combined offense and defense, innovation and diplomacy. The coming days would test every lesson learned in battle, bonds forged in fire. Throughout the aftermath, personal relationships deepened. Alice and Kale found strength in their shared purpose, their trust growing beyond the battlefield. Mila and Ash's collaboration sparked new ideas and innovations, blending human ingenuity with remnant wisdom. Marco's pragmatism balanced Kale's traditions, creating a leadership dynamic that inspired the crew. Together, they were more than a team. They were a family bound by fire and hope, a vision for the future. In a quiet moment aboard the Genesis, Alice reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From the first spark of rebellion against the Ashen Veil, through the harrowing battles and sacrifices, to this fragile dawn, humanity had proven its resilience. We are the architects of our destiny, she thought, not just survivors, but creators of a new legacy. Her gaze turned to the stars beyond. The universe is vast and full of challenges, but with unity, courage, and hope, we will face whatever comes. Together, the final scene, lighting the way. As Erebus 7's twin moons rose, the Luminara array pulsed steadily, its light piercing the darkness. The Genesis and its crew prepared for the next chapter, not just of war, but of peace and prosperity. Alice stood once more on the observation deck, surrounded by her closest allies. "This is our new dawn," she said softly. "Let's make it last."